Hello, my name's Sarah, and welcome to another vlog. Today we're going to be talking through an acronym that helps guide us in some of our social interactions that is called D.E.A.R M.A.N. So D.E.A.R M.A.N comes to us from DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, and it's a great tool in situations where you might have to confront someone or have a difficult conversation. It really helps you prioritize being both respectful to someone else and to yourself, which can help you foster more positive relationships and boundaries with the people around you. So to get right into it, let's start with D. So D in D.E.A.R.M.A.N, in the first part, Dear, stands for describe. A great way to approach someone, especially to start off the conversation, is to start with the facts of the situation. Tell them what happened, but only sticking with the objective pieces. Don't add any judgments while describing what happened or try to add in any criticisms. Prioritize being concise. Your audience knows what happened. This is just to cue them in on what you're responding to, what you're trying to talk about in this moment. So to start off, an example that I'll be kind of using throughout these acronyms is maybe last night was your night to do the dishes and you didn't clean them. No judgments, no kind of you should have done this, you should have done that. Just purely, this is what happened, this is what I want to talk about. So going on to E, which stands for express, this is where you clearly state your emotions. A really, really common mistake we tend to make in communicating is assuming that our feelings are obvious to everyone around us. It's always important to remember, whether it's your friend, your coworker, your mom, your dad, your boss, whomever, no one is a mind reader. If you don't say what you're feeling, they probably won't know what you're feeling. This can be really important place where we use I statements. If you're familiar with I statements, if you're not, this is kind of the most basic form of it is I feel blank, I think blank. Really focus on yourself as the subject. So again, I feel can be a really helpful stem when thinking about how to express yourself. Going with the example, maybe it looks like I feel frustrated, frustrated being the emotion. I feel frustrated when chores in the house don't get done. Going on to A, this is what stands for assert. A stands for assert in this acronym. Just as someone can't assume your emotions, they won't know the feelings you have unless you tell them, they probably can't assume exactly what you want unless you state it clearly. Again, we're avoiding critical language in this step and sticking to the tangible actions the other person can take or that the two of you can take. Asserting can also look like saying no to someone or saying the things that you don't want to happen, establishing barriers or boundaries. So an example with this one is, when I cook dinner, I want you to help with the dishes. Very clear, in this condition, this is the outcome I want. Going on to R, the last part of the first word, dear. This stands for reinforce, or sometimes people will also refer to this as reward. The idea with this one is to explain to your audience, whoever you're talking to, the positives of what you're asking for. It's a great place to kind of help them understand your rationale, so to speak. And you may also want to clarify potential negative outcomes if what you're asking for doesn't happen. Help them really understand why this is important, why they should buy into it, so to speak. So an example with this one is, if we prioritize cleaning the dishes at night, then we don't have to worry about dishes stacking up the next day, preventing more work for us in the future. That kind of thought pattern, showing them clearly this is beneficial to us. We should do this because this is helpful to us. Going into man, the M in man stands for mindful or mindfulness. What we mean when we're talking about mindfulness in this context is that you need to keep your goal as your primary focus when you're talking. Don't let yourself get distracted or swayed off topic. Sometimes this does mean speaking like a broken record. Maybe if someone's really trying to pull you away from something, trying to make you think about other subjects of, yeah, maybe I didn't do the dishes last night, but 2 weeks ago you didn't vacuum the carpet. Keep with what you're saying. Repeat if you need to. It's okay and sometimes necessary to kind of take on that broken record perspective. Don't respond to distractors, attacks, or any attempts to change the subject. Keep a firm stance in what your goal is and stick with it. The A, the second A in the whole acronym, the A in man, stands for appear confident specifically. So appear confident in your demeanor and speech. This can be tricky for a lot of us, but really rooting yourself in some of the basics of confident body language and speech can be helpful. So some things that can be helpful to keep in mind when it comes to body language is maintaining eye contact with your audience, speaking at your typical volume, so not maybe getting quieter if you're a little more nervous, or in the inverse, getting louder, maybe getting more aggressive. Speak at your typical volume as much as you can, and be faced towards your audience completely. Have as best of posture as you can. Really try to show that, like, I'm focused, I'm engaged, and we're having this conversation. Appearing confident can also come in your speech. Don't pepper in phrases that diminish your own words. Avoid anything that feels like or is a literal maybe. So what I mean by this is to kind of point to a do and a don't when we're talking about talking confidently. Don't come into it saying things like, I would kind of like it if you maybe possibly did the dishes every once in a while. No. Cut out all the specifics, cut out all the qualifiers, approach them, and the more concise you can be, sometimes that adds to the confidence of, I want you to do the dishes. Nothing else, nothing to kind of diminish our own words, just speaking very clearly. Then the last letter in our acronym, the N, stands for negotiate. Be willing to collaborate with the other person on solutions to the problem or to the concern that you're coming in with. Sometimes negotiating means compromising. Perhaps you ask for a little less, maybe you change parts of your request, or you offer to give something in return. When negotiating, it's critical that both parties come to a mutual agreement. It's not just that you come in and say, well, also I'll do this random other thing, so now we're good. Make it a conversation. Have this be the time where you really pull in the other person's perspective and listen to them. So an example of maybe a potential negotiation point is, I can take over dishes Sunday through Tuesday if you can be in charge of dishes Wednesday to Saturday. Having clear cut, like, I do this, you do that, we both do our part. So by being intentional in our communications, we can create stronger bonds with others, as well as firmer boundaries to keep relationships sound. In some cases, you may want to follow D.E.A.R.M.A.N very closely, like the example I gave, such as cases where there's a very specific concern or problem. There are also more general ways you can apply this to your communication with others by considering some of these steps more broadly. Maybe it's really focusing on, how can I be more assertive in my communication by stating what I want clearly in any kind of context, or maybe it's really thinking about expressing, do I use I feel statements? Do I use I statements when I'm in conversations with my partner or with my family? Regardless, either way, practicing communication skills is important for fostering healthy, happy relationships with others. So thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon to speak about another skill that's very related to D.E.A.R.M.A.N, the DBT acronym, Give Fast.